I worked in a luxury hotel chain for 15 years and I've seen it all. Ask me anything. I've seen a lot, from celebrities and scammers to a steroid-pumped MMA fighter causing a scene in the hallway. I've worked different shifts in various departments. All sorts of things happened with us. Did you ever have any pleasant encounters with very famous people? Would you share? Muhammad Ali turned out to be a very kind person. When he entered the lobby, the assistant accompanying him shouted, "The champion is here." When I brought his things to the room, he let me try on his championship ring. In general, most celebrities behave politely and friendly, especially those who don't consider themselves top-level stars. Chris Rock is cool too. He was sitting at the bar watching baseball, not really talking to anyone, and I had a funny conversation with Gary Matthews Jr. about his father. What's the most disgusting thing you've ever seen? Haha, damn, I just remembered a story. We got a call at the reception from a disabled man who asked for help getting back into his wheelchair. It turned out he had invited an escort. They did BDSM. She pulled him out of his wheelchair, handcuffed him to the bed, stripped him naked, took a dump on his chest, unplugged his wheelchair, turned off his phone, robbed him, and left. It was both a sad and a very disgusting scene. But overall, most often I just get grossed out by used condoms. But how did he call you if he was handcuffed to the bed and the phone was turned off? There were several phones in the room, one by the bed, one on the table, one in the bathroom, and so on. She didn't turn off the one by the bed. By that time, the girl had long since left, and he didn't file a police report against her. What's the craziest or most expensive thing someone has left in a room? Have you ever taken anything for yourself? One time, a prince left an uncashed cashier's check for $455,000. Does that count? And someone else forgot a fur coat worth $22,000 and later demanded compensation in cash even though we had kept the coat. Seriously? People can demand money for things they themselves forgot? No, of course, that's not allowed. But if people forget something, we almost always send it back to the owner at our own expense. But in this case, they just tried to scam the insurance company. And yes, about keeping something for yourself. If the lost item isn't claimed by anyone, you can take it after 90 days. Housekeepers have come across some really cool things, from Rolex watches to thousands of dollars in cash, expensive suits, and so on. And I always just wanted to take an iPhone charger. To this day, I have a spare one in every room. Have there ever been awkward situations for housekeepers when a guest deliberately greeted them naked or was having sex right when she came in to clean? How do you react to that? Jeremy Piven, Ari Gold from Entourage, was especially known for this. He would open the door wearing a wide-open bathrobe. After a few of these antics, we decided that from then on, only a man would deliver anything he ordered to his room. Do criminals often stay at expensive hotels and pay in cash, or is that just a movie cliché? Very often. It's incredibly inconvenient because you end up with a pile of cash on your hands. We still collect and keep their card details, in case something happens in the room. And what's the strangest thing someone has ever left in a room? There was a swinger who used to come regularly on Sundays. She checked out around 5 in the morning to go home, but then came back around 4 in the afternoon for the purse she had forgotten. It turned out there were about 200 grams of coke in the purse. Security told her she could get her purse back, but they'd have to call the police for that. She said, "What purse? I must have left it at home." The security guard later gave that Yves Saint Laurent clutch to his wife for her birthday, and the coke was disposed of. Can you tell us something about one-night ladies? Has it ever happened that they booked a room for a whole week and had clients coming in the entire time? That's an integral part of hotel life. As long as they don't cause any problems, I don't care. Honestly, they're some of the most polite and reasonable guests. They want to stay unnoticed. Some even bring their own sheets. Haha. But in high-end hotels, it's a different scale. There isn't really a stream of clients here. The price starts at $1,500 an hour and up. Usually a lady is booked for the whole evening or night, not just for an hour. It's also interesting to see well-known adult film actresses checking into the hotel for long weekends. You can find their rates online, $5,000 per hour and up to $40,000 for a night. Before COVID and the OnlyFans era, this was much more common. Do you think anyone shoots their videos right in the hotel rooms? I know they do. I see them bringing in equipment and then that content shows up on the Black and Orange YouTube. Once, a link to one of those videos made its way among the staff and they immediately shared it with everyone. HR was not thrilled about it. From the view out the window and the details of the interior, I can almost always tell exactly which room it was. Has anyone ever died in your hotel? Yes, many times, but mostly from natural causes. Not in this hotel, but in another one there was a murder and a suicide. It was 2 sailors on leave, and I happened to come in to check the rooms that hadn't been vacated yet. I still get goosebumps. How many cases of infidelity have you witnessed? Oh, a lot, really a lot. There were both random flings during the week and ongoing affairs. For example, in our building, there were residents who would rent a room in the hotel one floor below so they could secretly meet their lover using the service elevator. Meanwhile, the spouse thought they hadn't even left the apartment, or for instance, when a man brings his mistress to a room and his wife knows about it. But the creepiest thing is when the wife is standing in the lobby saying she knows for sure her husband is in the hotel right now and just wants to find out his room number. But if her name isn't on the reservation, there's no way we can help her. And what happens if you still tell her the room number, whether on purpose or by accident? I understand that it's against the rules and you could get fired, but is that just internal policy or is it the law? Have you ever had cases like that? That's a serious breach of privacy and security policy. Internal regulations aren't the law, but if you start disclosing that kind of information, you'll quickly develop a reputation. And believe me, that's a reputation nobody benefits from. I worked at one of the best hotels in Beverly Hills. We had a super famous guy staying with us having fun with his mistress, but then his wife decided to surprise him. Some idiot manager let her into the room and that was it. Hell broke loose. I saw it myself. Is it true that in luxury hotels you can call the front desk and order a prostitute? I think it all depends on where the hotel is located, not at our place. In our city, that's forbidden. But in Vegas or Amsterdam, it might be possible. Still, if you find the right person, you can work something out or just hang out at the bar. There's almost always some lady quietly waiting for clients there. It's more a matter of the country than the class of the hotel. In the US, it's unlikely, except for Vegas. Well, maybe Miami too. But in countries like Thailand or Taiwan, where such services can actually be offered in luxury hotels, it's likely that mid-range hotels have them as well. In Thailand, of course. In Taiwan, I have my doubts. At the hotel where I worked in China, you could request girls right in the karaoke room. Oh, you probably mean Xi'an. I think it could have been any major city in China. In our case, it was a very large metropolis. There, the girls would just sit in a row on chairs and you would choose who you wanted to sing karaoke with. It's a sad thing. Most of them were girls from farms who traveled for hours to the city for work. I was young back then and didn't immediately realize how sad it all was. What city was it, and what was the largest bill you ever had for cleaning a room? One regular guest booked the presidential suite and threw a party to celebrate coming back from rehab. We had to charge $15,000 for damages to the room, traces of illegal substances, and the removal of call girls. And if you didn't want to pay, how would you make sure those $15,000 got paid? In this case, the guest lived with us. He had a $6 million apartment on the upper floors and an account at the hotel, which also served the residential complex. So we knew where to find him. Haha. Besides, when checking into the presidential suite, we pre-authorized the full room rate and tax in advance, plus a substantial extra amount just in case, to cover expenses and possible damages. I just started working at the front desk of a luxury hotel. Do you have any tips on how to survive and succeed in this job? Be consistent, pay attention to details, and don't rush. Don't rush just to get to the next guest faster. Exchange a few words with the person who is waiting. Apologize for the wait, but remember that the person in front of you is your top priority. They should feel that they are receiving proper attention and quality service. I've seen tons of surveillance camera videos where someone accidentally locks themselves out of their room, for example, when taking out a tray or checking something in the hallway. It might seem like a wildly unlikely story, but videos like that regularly end up in YouTube compilations like Watch People Die Inside. I've always wondered if situations like that actually happen in real life. And don't you ever feel like some people do it on purpose just to show off their naked body to others? No, it really does happen quite often. The doors are specifically fitted with tighter closers, so they definitely don't stay open, and people just don't think about it. It's inconvenient, but the worst is when someone gets locked out on the balcony in winter without their phone. People shout and scream, hoping that someone will hear them and notify the reception. Is there any good story, not just all this gloom? Among our guests, there are plenty of wonderful people who just want to enjoy the city and appreciate real recommendations, not just the popular tourist spots. It's always nice when a client brings cupcakes or snacks to the reception as a token of gratitude. The dad from the American Family turned out to be a really nice guy, and Bill Clinton is incredibly charismatic, unlike Hillary. I've talked to both of the Clintons many times. Bill is just a whirlwind of a personality, while Hillary is awful. What's so awful about her? Can you give an example? I encountered her during her campaign. They came to our hotel because one of the residents was hosting a fundraiser in her support, and they stayed there. They arrived late in the evening. She came in with her head down through the staff entrance without saying a word to anyone. And this was in the middle of an election campaign. And Bill arrived at the same time, but in a different car, and came in through the main entrance. He got out, shook hands, and talked with everyone in the lobby. Staff, guests, the manager, the janitor. He didn't care who he was talking to. I once read a book about the hotel industry called Heads in Beds. There was a tip. When you first arrive at a hotel, find the doorman or the valet. Give him $20 and ask him to personally take you to his favorite employee working at the front desk. Then give that employee another $20 tip and ask for a room upgrade, extra perks, free tickets, and so on. The book explains that the doormen and front desk staff often work closely together and support each other. Do you agree with this? I wouldn't say this works in regular city hotels. But at resorts, especially all-inclusive ones, it's really worth making an effort to be remembered. Then you'll be given priority both when it comes to drinks and any requests you might have. And what's the story with the MMA fighter? A couple checked in with their friends and planned to stay in a room with 2 queen-size beds. Around 3 in the morning, one of them, a big guy, basically a mountain of muscle, got high on something weird. We started getting noise complaints, so we went upstairs with security. His wife was crying in the room while he was raging and yelling in the hallway. The security guard reached out to calm him down, but the guy twisted his arm so hard he tore a ligament. After that, he walked down the hallway, ripping light fixtures off the walls. At one point, he turned away and I jumped on him, put him in a chokehold, and clung to him with all my strength like I was riding a wild bull until he finally passed out. At that exact moment, the police arrived on the scene and arrested him for vandalism. His wife decided not to press charges against him. What's the funniest story you have for us? I always remember this Australian guy who, in the middle of winter, came down to the lobby completely naked. He just wanted to know what it felt like to be outside below zero with no clothes on. The funniest part, he forgot his room key. The guy kept apologizing for the whole thing afterwards. Haha. Dave Matthews had a similar story. He talked about it in an interview. He got drunk and was running around his room naked. At some point, he thought the bathroom door was the front door. He walked out, the door slammed shut behind him, and then he realized it wasn't the bathroom at all. Do you work in a position where you get tips? And if so, which celebrity turned out to be the stingiest and which one the most generous? Not anymore, but I used to. Honestly, I can't remember the stingiest ones because back then our hotel didn't have a tipping system. Yes, we were paid well, but if a guest insisted, we could accept tips. The most generous celebrities, a prince who threw money around like it was toilet paper, and Jim Irsay, the former owner of the Colts, who had a guy following him around with stacks of $100 bills. He made sure that everyone, whether a manager or a cleaner, got one. What do you do if a guest doesn't pay or their card doesn't go through? We block access to the room so that the guest has to come to the front desk and resolve the issue before they can return. The system automatically checks the cards every night. What was the craziest reason a co-worker got fired? We fired the head chef because he shoved an employee, took off his chef's jacket, and told the guy to step outside if he had any complaints. Yeah, that situation dragged on for a long time. That was just the last straw. The chef was French. Honestly, I was expecting a crazier story. People weren't fired for even wilder things, like a threesome in the storage room or drinking on the job. Is staff allowed to visit guests after their shift? I had a story with a sweet girl at the reception. At first, I thought she was just being polite and professional. We exchanged a couple of notes and flirted a bit, but she said the hotel's policy strictly forbids visiting guests. It's forbidden both during and after your shift. I did it, yes. But if we had been caught, there could have been problems. Sorry, what exactly did you do? Tell us. When I was young and single, airline crews stayed with us every day. The flight attendants were young and highly flirtatious British girls. For a 22-year-old guy, it was just a dream. Haha. I also met certain women who made some highly convincing offers, and their husbands wanted to participate in the fun as well. After all, you have to provide 5-star service. Is it true that the sheets are changed after every guest, or, as some claim, are they sometimes just left as they are? The sheets are always changed, even if they look clean. Tell us about the wildest party Diddy ever had. I haven't dealt with Diddy, but Kanye is a weird guy, and Kim is unpleasant. Is it possible to negotiate the price of a room? And does that thing work where you slip some cash to the front desk staff? How much do you have to give to get an upgrade? It depends on the hotel and on who's working at the front desk. Usually there's a lower limit to the prices, but you can often negotiate an upgrade for cash. It all depends on the specific staff member. This works best when there isn't a rush of guests. Recently I stayed at a luxury hotel. My work rewarded us that way. But in the end, the beds there were terrible. I complained at the reception, but they couldn't help. And overall, it seemed like they just didn't care at all. Is that normal? And how can I get back at them in my review? Sorry, but they clearly treated us like we didn't matter. Most high-end hotels monitor reviews on TripAdvisor. A 1-star review should prompt a quick response if the hotel can identify you by the date and room number. I'm sorry it turned out this way. Unfortunately, even in places like this, beds are usually replaced every 5 to 7 years, just like everywhere else. How often do you find traces of white powder in the rooms? That happens much less often now. Millennials aren't into that as much as Generation X was. Do hotels like this replace mattresses? Is there any kind of standard or regulation? According to our standards, it's every 7 years. We have a rotation schedule. It's included in our capital expenditures. If a mattress is damaged, we have spares. What advice would you give on how to get the biggest discounts and bonuses that the general public might not know about? Nothing super secret. If you plan to use various extra features and options, consider booking package deals. Early booking almost always gives you the best price, and if it's not prepaid, you can almost always cancel your reservation up to a week before arrival if you suddenly find a better price. If you're in a big city and looking for a cheap room, especially in cold places during winter, you can find insanely low prices using the Hotels Tonight app because some hotels list rooms there that they normally wouldn't offer at all. It's their way to fill rooms somehow during the dead season. Is it true that luxury hotels, especially in suites and upgraded rooms, have hidden cameras supposedly to resolve disputes? Like, no sir, no one stole your Rolex from the bedside table. Nazi, representatives from management companies have told me about this, but I've always doubted the truth of this information. No, that would be a severe violation of privacy. We would be sued, and rightfully so. Read about the Erin Andrews case. That wasn't even a hotel, but they still got in trouble. Can you say who that MMA fighter was? And if not, can you at least give us a hint? Honestly, I have no idea who it was. That was 15 years ago, and I don't follow that sport. And judging by the fact that they booked a regular room, I assume the guy was pretty low in the rankings. Based on the reactions to my story, he probably wasn't a strong fighter since I was able to handle him so easily. Where is the price threshold in luxury hotels where it just becomes a total ripoff? I saw a video on YouTube where a guy stayed in a room for $2,500 a night, and it was no different from a room that cost $300 or $400. That's a price you simply can't afford. It's different for everyone. Personally, for me, anything over $1,000 a night is already too much. And such prices are becoming more and more common. A lot also depends on what amenities the hotel offers. Hotels in the Caribbean region are nothing like those in the city. Is it possible working at such a hotel to earn enough to make a living? Back when I first started working at the front desk in 2010, I was making about $20 an hour, and every single weekend I would leave with at least $200 in tips. The only time I didn't really like my salary was when I switched from hourly pay to a manager position, but unfortunately didn't get compensated for all the actual hours I worked. Later, as I moved up the career ladder, I started getting bonuses for my team's performance and a percentage of the revenue from upsells. By the time I left, my income was over $100,000 a year. Were there ever cases where popular or semi-popular musicians, bands, or celebrities trashed their rooms? Honestly, I can't recall any. Most musicians and athletes are older, established people with their heads on straight. They come for work and behave professionally. Basketball players, though, are always leaving girls in their rooms, and hockey players are like magnets for women. They look pretty ordinary, but they're all in great shape. What do you mean by leaving girls? Like, do they lock them in? No, they just tell them, stay as long as you want, fully knowing that as soon as they leave, we'll kick the girls out ourselves. Tell me, do you ask them to leave right after the player leaves? Or when it's time to check out? As soon as the player leaves, which is usually about an hour and a half before the game, so around 4 or 5 in the evening. And you kick them out because, according to insurance, only officially registered guests can be in the room? That's the only reason I can think of. Usually the reason is that they've been sitting in the room for 4 or 5 hours after the official checkout time, and we have a crowd of housekeepers waiting to clean the room as quickly as possible. Often, there's already a crowd of new guests waiting to check in right in the lobby. I also work at a 5-star resort hotel. Zuckerberg, Bezos, Dell, Buffett, Gates, Musk. I've seen all of them almost every year. And no, they don't leave tips, they don't need to. Usually before they arrive, a team checks in to prepare everything in advance. You hardly ever see the billionaires themselves. All interaction is minimal. They don't throw around $100 bills like many people think. They're polite, but very distant. They're not like us. Just remember that. Yes, to them you are nobody. I worked as a doorman and a porter at a luxurious 5-star hotel. The Gates family definitely had the most advanced preparation. Their people would arrive in advance, check everything, and ensure perfect conditions. And what's more, they handed out tips long before Gates himself even showed up. And once Ted Turner came to us. We helped him get out of the car and walk up the stairs. He had a stack of $100 bills in his hand, and he was already reaching out to give me one when suddenly his wife said, "Don't, Ted, that's too much." And he put the bill back. Haha, I wasn't offended, but it was funny. Big actors and musicians have managers who leave proper tips. But when a musician comes by himself, he throws around hundreds like it's pocket change. I remember the guitarist from Journey was a super nice guy, but he hated the sound of slamming doors, so you had to open the car door for him, wait until he was all the way inside the hotel, and only then close it. And then bam, he's handing out 100 to everyone in the lobby. Bring water to his room, $100, help with the bag, $100. It was amazing! And when guys like that came to us, we'd leave work with a pile of cash. The best tips usually come either from those who want everyone to know they're rich, or from those who rarely stay at luxury hotels like this and think giving big tips is just the norm. Some CEO of a tech company, whose name meant absolutely nothing to me, gave me $500 just to go across the street to Starbucks. And then she even asked if she should give me her card so I could pay. I replied, "You know what, sweetheart, this one's on me." Haha, it was a fun job. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments below, people who work in hotels, share your similar stories and don't forget to check out our other videos. Hugs. Bye.